Welcome back to the channel, you guys. Welcome back to Ironclad RC. We got the Blackjack 24 on the block, okay? This is Proboat's newest release. Today we're going to be doing some maintenance on this boat. Greasing the flex cable, removing the rear bushing, removing the flex cable, and just some general maintenance and things that you need to know. So stick around. Big B with Ironclad RC. So the first thing I want to go over is greasing the flex cable. I actually recommend that you guys grease your flex cable before every run. Okay, every run, just hit it with some grease. The nice thing about this model, Proboat has actually made it extremely easy for us to grease this boat. You basically remove this screw right here. Okay, got a screw and a little like Teflon or plastic washer there, so don't lose the washer. You remove that screw. You use a Proboat grease gun to grease this. Now I actually use a medicine syringe. Okay, I basically fill it up with Dynimite marine grease, and I use this medicine syringe. I use it for all my boats. You know, I'll pull the cable out, squirt some grease in there, carefully put the cable back in, and it works. So that's what we're going to use for this boat. Okay, so you basically just put your syringe or grease gun right here and squirt grease into the driveline. All right, before each run, or I guess you could do it after your run. Actually, I recommend, which I don't do. I have so many boats, but I really only do it when I go to the speed run spot, saltwater. I actually recommend that you actually completely pull your flex cable out after each run. That will allow the stuffing tube to dry and the flex cable, so it don't build up with rust over the years. You know, so pull your flex cable out after each run. Before each run, grease it. Okay, so let's do it. So with this boat, I've greased it about 4 times now. Okay, and I actually recommend that you guys pull the propeller off. Okay, pull the propeller off. This pulling the prop off is not mandatory. You don't have to do this. This is a safety issue, because we're actually going to spool this up while we grease it. Okay, so if you're trying to put grease in it and then spool it up with the prop on, you may cut yourself. So this is a safety. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in my 2S packs. All right, we're going to turn the boat on. Okay, so I got the boat starting up. All right, I got my cable tight on the collet. All right, so what we're going to do is use this grease gun here to put grease in. All right, now like I said, if you have the Dynimite grease gun, it probably won't make a mess. Okay, so we're actually going to spool it up. All right, hit it with the grease. Hit it with the grease. Spool it up. I like my drive lines to be like lubed. I'm talking like super. Alright, so did you guys see the grease coming out? The grease is coming out the stub shaft right here. Did you guys see that? When I pressed that last bit in, it was like pushing out the stub shaft. So that's what you want to see, really. Alright, so that's how you grease it. It's the same with the grease syringe or the Dynimite grease gun. And after you push a little bit in there, spool it up, push a little in there, spool it up. So we just greased it, right? So we're actually going to pull it all apart. I really don't recommend after you greasing your shaft to pull it all apart, but I want to show you guys how to remove the flex cable. I also want to show you how to remove the bushing, okay? Because I know it's going to come up. I know questions are going to be asked, because my flex cable was actually stuck. I couldn't get it out. So you'll need two 10mm wrenches, or a 10mm wrench and like an adjustable or whatever. Just don't want to strip out your coupler, okay? Make sure your boat is unplugged. All right, I'm actually having to redo this video because I had my boat plugged in and I didn't want to like send the wrong message. Okay, so I've actually Loctited my cable into my couplers. Like putting blue Loctite on my grub screw, I've actually accidentally Loctited my flex cable in my coupler. Okay, so what you want to do, if you get this boat, you just basically like loosen up your coupler. I actually recommend completely unscrewing it so you know that this screw is not putting pressure on those prongs on your coupler, okay? And basically just pull your flex cable out. Boom. Pretty freaking simple, right? Well, my flex cable was Loctited in the coupler from the factory. Okay, it was Loctited in, and I couldn't get it out. So what I ended up doing was I took a lighter. Okay, you can use a little blowtorch. I don't have one right now. Mine like melted. You want to just basically like heat up the back part of your coupler where the flex cable goes in. You don't really have to heat up this part, just the back part. Kind of heat it up, maybe move it around a little bit. Don't get burnt, you know. Heat it up just in case it is Loctited. Okay, get it hot and try to pull it out. Okay, if it don't want to come out after you heated it up, make sure it's warm. Get you like a rubber mallet and come in on your stub shaft. A dead blow, not like an up or down blow, like a dead straight in blow, and a light tap. Just kind of give it a couple of taps. That should break it loose from your coupler. Okay, now I've actually had to use this method on dozens of boats, dozens times. Okay, so it works, and if it don't come out from the factory, that's the reason, because it accidentally got glued into place. Simple fix, little heat, couple taps, tap tap taparoo. She should fly right out. Okay, let's take a look at how much grease is on here because we just greased it. Okay, now I'm pulling mine out, and my bushing is going to want to pull out with it. This bushing is not going to pull out by itself on the stock boat. Okay, it's glued into the strut. All right, that is glued in. That bushing's glued in from the factory. It was on mine. So you want to pull this flex cable out. All right, and it actually got a lot of freaking grease on there. So the grease goes all the way up to here. You guys see that? So that grease fitting works. Now, if you want this bushing to come out, I'm going to let my bushing spin, okay? And there was a great debate on the Blackjack 42. Oh, do you glue the bushing in, or do you let it spin? All right. Now, my thinking is it's just a little bit larger Speedmaster bushing. Okay, Speedmaster bushings are designed to ride in the stuffing tube. All right, it's designed to ride in the stuffing tube. If you'll look, there's actually, you see the stuffing tube? You see how the stuffing tube comes all the way, almost all the way to the end of your strut? Okay, so this section right here rides in the stuffing tube, and that grease fitting, that grease hole is drilled through the stuffing tube. Okay, there's a hole in the stuffing tube, a little hole at the end, and it's designed to spin. Now that's what I think. Bear this in mind. If you keep this bushing in place where Proboat has it stock, it's going to be easier to grease, because I'm pretty sure they have these little holes right here lined up, like dead nuts lined up with this grease fitting. Okay, so if you leave this where it's at, it's going to be super easy to grease. Okay, if you pull the bushing out and you let it spin, you're going to have to grease this boat like I showed you. Even if you keep it glued into place, I actually do recommend greasing it like I showed you. It's just it just works to grease into the driveline. You feel me? So like I said, it's personal preference, really. I'm going to let mine spin, and I'll report back to you any trouble I find. This bushing is completely different than the Blackjack 42 bushing. That flex cable was 1/4 inch, step down to 3/16. This is a solid 3/16, and it's really designed like a freaking Speedmaster bushing. So I'm going to let it spin. All right, why freaking not? Why not? Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to kind of point that out. You're probably better off just leaving it like just in place. But if you want to try it spinning, that's also a possibility. Okay, so there you go. So if you want to get this out, okay, you're definitely gonna need a torch. Okay, so mine was Loctited in. You're gonna want to take your torch, heat up that barrel. All right, heat up that barrel, get it kind of hot, put your stub shaft in there with the threads. Those threads should actually kind of lock onto that stub shaft, and you should be able to pull it out. Okay, it's not going to take a whole lot of heat, so don't go crazy with it. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to let mine spin. All right, I'm going to let mine spin just like I did with the Blackjack 42. The great debate, you know, let it spin or glue it in. All right, just wanted to show you guys how to get it out, because I know there's going to be comments in my comment section asking how to get the bearing out. Now that's not part of your maintenance. Like I said, you don't have to do that. I just wanted to show my viewers how to do it. This is a .187 cable here. Okay, this is it's actually an extremely heavy duty cable for this boat. All right, and I actually really like the fact that they went with the .187. There's not going to be any cable whip. You know, when you spool it up, there's not going to be any cable whip. A nice smooth drive line, right? So it's a heavy duty cable, right? So how much gap do you leave, right? When you pull your cable out and you go to reinstall everything, how much gap do you leave? Because that heavy duty cable with this lightweight boat, it's not going to contract. It's not going to really contract. So I don't recommend it running it like butted up to the strut. You don't want to do that with any boat. Okay, with this cable, you shouldn't have to leave that big of a gap, you know. So like on my Dominator and my my Delta Force 35 mono, any boat I basically run a .187 or at least a short run of .187 cable. I really don't leave that much gap. You can get away with about 1.5 millimeters, you know. The recommended gap for RC boats is half the width of the diameter of your cable. So if you do half the width, that's about this much. That's not really necessary for this particular boat right here. It's got a heavy duty cable. It's not going to contract and like shrink up. And the reason you leave a gap is you don't want the drive dog to like contract the cable and the drive dog to like rub on the strut. Like you don't want the drive dog and the strut to come in contact with each other at a high RPM. If that happens, it's going to create friction, and 9 times out of 10 that friction will actually twist and break your cable. Okay, so that's what you want to like stay away from. You don't want these to be butted up on each other. But with this heavy duty cable, you don't really need to leave a real long gap either, you know. So try to do about 2 millimeters, you know, 1.5 millimeters, 2 millimeters should be fine. If you notice, they don't have a Teflon drive washer on here because they have the heavy duty cable and it's a lightweight boat. You know what I mean? A lot of guys like to try to clean the cable before it goes in the coupler. I don't clean my cables before it goes into the coupler. I mean, you don't want a whole bunch of grease in the coupler. You know, it may cause slip. I've never had that issue. I have had my couplers wear out, and the number one cause for a coupler to wear out is over tightening the coupler. Okay, if you over tighten the coupler, it will like over time compress the cable. you know, like kind of shrink that diameter of the cable. When that happens, the cable will start to spin in the coupler. If it starts to spin in the coupler, then you're basically going to have to replace the cable and the coupler. Okay, so the number one way to prevent the coupler or the cable from compressing is not to get it too tight. I'll show you how to do it. You don't want to get it gorilla tight, you know, just like I just felt it start cinching down, and I'm just going to do maybe a quarter turn, half a turn after I felt it cinch down. You don't want to get it too tight, you know, just get it good and tight, not gorilla tight. All right, I know the video was stupid long just to grease a cable. Really, all I could have showed you is how to grease, like right here, but I wanted to explain to you guys how to get the driveline apart, just in case it was stuck like mine. Like my cable was glued in and the bushing's glued in. I wanted to show you guys how to do that. All right, it would save me some time answering questions in the comments later on. All right, so before you spool it up, just back up, because you're probably going to have grease sling out of here. You don't want to mess up your shirt. Okay, make sure that's tight. Make sure you got your gap right here. All right, about 1 millimeter minimum. All right, 2-3 millimeters should work. Make sure your coupler's tight, nice and smooth. Okay, so we're gonna do some more maintenance on this boat, but at a later date. The video is already long. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Big P with Ironclad RC.